In the previous episode, we talked about the pineal gland and saw how it functions as a bridge between the material and the energetic world. But what if I told you that the pineal gland is not just the portal to broader dimensions of consciousness, but also the key to understanding time, or rather, the illusion of time? Yes, that's right. To understand meditation, I think it's necessary and to look at time from a different perspective. We've been taught to see time as linear, past, present, and future as separate and sequential. In classical physics, time is treated as a fundamental fixed dimension similar to space. Newtonian mechanics assumes that time flows at a constant rate, regardless of the observer. This is how most of us have been taught to experience reality. You wake up in the morning, you go about your day, then at night say, today is over. The past is gone, and the future awaits. But quantum physics and neurology tell a different story. According to researchers like Dr. Carlo Rovelli, time is not an absolute unit, but an emergent property of the interactions between systems. In quantum physics, time isn't linear, it is fluid, relative, and fundamentally non-existent in the way we understand it. Take dreams, for example. You can experience an entire lifetime within a single night. A single moment in deep meditation can feel like an eternity, while hours lost in thought can seem to vanish in an instant. Our perception of time is not dictated by an external force. It is constructed by our own consciousness. And each one of you has experienced it, and I can say that you experience it every day. One of the most unique explanations of time comes from Bashar, who describes time as a side effect of the movement of consciousness through infinite static moments or frames. According to this point of view, time is not something that flows, but rather a mental perception, just so the brain can explain, aha, from here. That's how much time it is, from this vibration to that vibration. And as they say, infinity exists simultaneously. In other words, everything just exists. The perception of change happens when consciousness moves through frozen instances of infinity, Bashar explains. To make it simpler, let's imagine it as a film strip. The film consists of individual frames, each of which exists separately. When these frames are played in sequence, they create the illusion of movement, but in reality, all the frames already exist simultaneously. The only difference is which frame the projector is illuminating at the moment. And what is the analogy for the projector in our reality, our focus, our choice? In exactly the same way, we move through infinitely many realities and static frames every moment. When we make a decision or a choice, we don't change anything. We simply shift our focus to a parallel timeline where that decision has already been made. The outside world doesn't change, folks. It changes your perception of it. Because it doesn't matter what happens, as Bashar says. What matters is what you do with what happens. The external doesn't matter at all. It's always our responsibility, our radiance, and our choice first. That's why people who experience déjà vu, premonitions, or so-called glimpses of future events often report a strange feeling of familiarity. They don't see the future in the standard sense that we imagine from the movies. They briefly experience what's happening. They have access to a different vibrational frequency, where this event already exists in some form. Bashar goes even further. As we change our ideas, we change our vibrations and begin to see a different world. Literally, we have shifted our consciousness to a different version of Earth that exists simultaneously with the version we were on just a moment ago. This would mean that time travel does not mean physically moving to another point in history or the future. Instead, it's about changing your frequency to align yourself with a different version of reality that you prefer. In other words, why do we constantly have the same big message in all the shows? The shift in perspective? Personally, I try to make sure this is emphasized by everyone who works to have shows every week and to make them so detailed. I'm focused on the change in perspective, the power of conscious choice, and these are topics you will constantly see in various forms and viewed from many different angles. Because if we learn to change our perspective, we automatically change our focus and our choice as well, and we have automatically allowed for another possibility for a given event to happen. And if that's the case, then we are already taking steps toward change and reality even without thinking about it that much. It's that easy. If we change our perspective on a situation, we automatically change our vibration and our mindset. Therefore, we will react differently. And if we react differently, well, we are already different. Let's repeat it again. If we change our perception, we start reacting differently. If we react differently even once to what seems like the same situation, we are already different. This cycle never ends. In quantum mechanics, this concept is reflected in the idea of superposition. A particle exists in multiple states until it is observed. The end? Reality does not exist in a fixed form until our consciousness interacts with it. This means that when we meditate, when we enter altered states, or even when we change the way we think, we are not just influencing our personal experience, we are literally shifting into a different reality where this new perspective is reflected. But if time is an illusion, then what is it really? If past, present, and future exist simultaneously, what does that mean for everything we take for reality? What do you think? I want to make a side note. The goal of these series is not to fill your heads with scientific terms and then have you go back to your old habits. The idea is to learn more and more to allow new ideas and perspectives, because in this way we accept new frequencies and vibrations, and they themselves can serve as a stepping stone that leads to what you prefer most. It's not necessary for you to find the key to your happiness in these series, the secret of your enthusiasm or the sincere belief that after these series you will truly live the life of your dreams. It might happen, and I really hope it does, but you might not find it in the whole thing. You might hear a specific piece that becomes a stepping stone for you, or something that was unclear to you until now, and by exploring it you can reach where you want to be. Accept the possibility that this might be just a clue to what you are yet to discover. There are no random events in creation. It's easiest to just count our breaths in and out and stop there. But my idea, Iskreno, is to sincerely try to understand the mechanisms of meditation and what's around us, and from there, for everyone to find the way that best reflects their inner desires. David Bohm, a leading 20th century theoretical physicist, suggests the following. Reality itself is holographic. What we perceive as a fixed material world, space, time, and everything in it, is nothing more than a projection of a deeper order. Bohm calls this the implicate order, an invisible field of pure information from which all things arise, unfold, and return. According to this model, time is not a sequence but a structure. It's not something that moves forward, but something that already exists in its entirety, like a film strip where every frame is already recorded. Just like in holograms, where each part contains information about the whole, every moment in time contains traces of every other moment.
He says the following.
Reality is what we believe to be true. What we accept as truth is what we believe in. What we believe in is what we perceive. What we perceive depends on what we are looking for. What we seek depends on our thoughts. What we think determines what we experience. When we say that someone has had a vision of the future or a memory from a past life, what they have actually done is shift their consciousness to another point within the holographic structure. The information is already there. It just depends on where and how we focus. Bohm's insights about time are directly supported by quantum mechanics, which reveals that time does not function as a rigid, unchanging sequence. One of the most famous experiments in quantum physics, the double-slit experiment, which we've talked about more than once, shows that a single electron can behave both as a particle and as a wave, depending on whether it is being observed. Is there an observer? It gets interesting. But the really strange part is that the decision to measure the electron retroactively changes its behavior in the past. Strange. This phenomenon has a name, and it's called retrocausality, and it directly challenges the classical idea that cause must always precede effect. Cause and effect flow into each other in the same way that past, future, and present do. If a decision made in the present can change what has already happened in the past, then time is not a straight line. It is a dynamic, interconnected field of probabilities, waiting to be chosen. John Wheeler, one of the pioneers of quantum mechanics, proposed an even stranger idea. The past, he says, exists only to the extent that it is recorded in the present. In other words, history is not fixed. Our present observations actively shape the reality we think we remember. How can you prove this to yourself? Get together with a group of friends. Ask yourselves the same question about the same memory you share from your childhood. Each of you will remember something different. And it's very unlikely that they'll remember the same thing you thought of first. You'll have something in common. It's a moment you'll both recall, but if it happens, one of you will remember the exact bench in front of the building. Another will recall the color of the swings and climbing frames on the field back then. A third will remember that there were garages in the area, and a fourth won't remember at all that there weren't real soccer goals, but there were tires instead. You can also do an experiment with yourselves. Think about it. How often do you remind yourself and remember the things that happened 2 weeks ago? And a month ago? What were you doing on February 17th? This year, what did you do on January 6th? What were you doing on December 4th? What did you have for breakfast? Which movie did you watch then? That already, from your current point of view, it's as if it's erased, as if it's just an echo, but it still exists in the informational field. And since it becomes a probability again the moment we're no longer there, well, it can also happen differently, it can also change. This fits perfectly with the perspective of Bashar, who describes time as a side effect of moving through different vibrational states. You are not traveling through time, you are shifting your consciousness to a different version of reality, where what you call the past or the future already exists. You are not moving through time, you are shifting the framework you perceive. That's why time is relative. Each of you has at least once been truly immersed in something you love to do, started doing it 20 minutes ago, turned around, and 3 hours have passed. Or when you're among your favorite people and we planned to meet briefly, but now it's already midnight again. Or 5 in the morning. In other cases, when we're on the treadmill at the gym, 20 minutes feel like an hour. Scientific research shows that meditation slows down and even disperses the perception of time. When the brain enters an alpha and theta state, the usual sequence of past, present, and future begins to blur. It starts to overflow. David Eagleman, a leading neurologist studying the perception of time, states, "Time is not something we move through, it's something our brain constructs." That's what science says. Meditation is one of the few methods that allow us to consciously step out of this construct. When we enter deep states of awareness, we don't just relax, unwind, or rest. We tune into a vibrational field of information and energy where all of this already exists. Everything exists there simultaneously, and if we imagine being connected by a single cable or many cables, we simply just need to pull the specific lever for what we want, and boom, information starts coming down that channel. Yes, it happens instantly, as long as we are ready to allow ourselves to do it. David Bohm describes reality as a continuous enfolding and unfolding of information, where the past and the future are constantly interacting. This means that by changing the state of our consciousness, we can literally change our experience of time. But this is not something new at all. Since ancient times, cultures around the world have described the ability of consciousness to leave the body and travel through time and space. Today we call this astral travel or an out-of-body experience. While modern science struggles to precisely define what happens during these events, history and personal accounts have long claimed that this is not just an illusion, but a realignment of consciousness beyond the limitations of the material world. Astral travel is deeply rooted in spiritual traditions, religious texts, and esoteric teachings from nearly every civilization. For example, the ancient Egyptians believed in the Ba, a part of the soul that could separate from the body and explore the world beyond death. In Hindu philosophy, the linga sharira is described as an energy body capable of independent movement beyond the physical realm freely. Shamans from the Amazon to the Arctic have long practiced soul flight, traveling beyond their bodies to gather information or to heal. Buddhist and Taoist teachings also describe techniques for astral projection through breathing, meditation, and visualization, using the subtle body to access higher dimensions, as they call it. The Judeo-Christian tradition mentions out-of-body experience in the book of Ecclesiastes, while the letters of Saint Pavel describes ascending to the third heaven, uncertain whether in the body or out of the body. What happens in the brain during this type of experience? Recently, modern neuroscience has begun to reveal the mechanisms behind out-of-body experiences. During such an experience, specific changes occur in brain activity. It increases and the brain enters gamma, 40 Hz and above. Studies show this increased gamma wave activity, especially in the posterior part of the dental cortex. These waves are associated with higher states of awareness, deep focus, and mystical experiences. In other words, instead of the mind shutting down, it enters an enhanced state of perception. He is extremely a useful companion as long as we know how to navigate it. Suppression of the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, which regulates logic and spatial orientation, is temporarily deactivated during such experiences. This leads to a loss of the usual sense of self, resulting in a feeling of floating, separation from the body, and the dissolution of time and space. Many researchers point to the pineal gland as key in changes of consciousness, and in the previous episode we explained why. It produces dimethyltryptamine. And Dr. Rick Strassman, in his research on dimethyltryptamine, found that participants often describe leaving their bodies and entering alien dimensions, perceiving entities and geometric landscapes, and parallel realities, experiences strikingly similar to reports from astral travelers. Just as David Bohm suggests, consciousness is not bound by the limitations of classical physics, and the mind may very well exist within the holographic structure of reality. In this context, OBs are not hallucinations, but rather a shift in perception, a recalibration of consciousness beyond the limitations of the usual filtering mechanisms of the brain. Beyond the filters. Rosica Jakobs, by the way, she was a guest with us, and she is one of the many, I'm sure, Bulgarian examples of this type of experience. If you've had an out-of-body experience, if you've received information from some unconventional source that isn't physical, from physical reality, if you've had strange dreams and interpreted them and they've helped you to help yourself and others, share these experiences of yours right here at this email or down in the description. Share them with us, and if you're ready, join the Reality Explorers to shed light on your path, and in this way to shine in the stories of others so that more and more people can stand up and say, look, this happened to me. And while I'm telling what happened to me, someone can raise their hand and say, oh, I had a very similar experience, but I never believed that anyone else went through exactly what I did. Or maybe I was just imagining or dreaming it until now. Believe me, people, I communicate with many of you in personal sessions. And those of you who know from the sessions, just be a little braver. All of this is done for all of you. As you can see, we really work quite hard to have a lot of material being broadcast on the internet. And since there aren't many channels that broadcast this type of information, my request is really for those who might even be a little afraid. Go out into the world and show this part of yourself, because it's not something separate from you. And the more people do it, even if it's not in the form of a video, even if it's a blog or a voice message, the easier and more natural it will be for us to open, so to speak, the curtain and show that it's actually not that scary and not that strange, but something natural that's coded within us, and we have the power to bring it out, to express it, and to use it as our navigation in the physical world. And since we are surrounded by this kind of experience, and it's something normal for us, write down in the description, we would be happy to have you visit us in Plovdiv. And let's do something memorable. These experiences have been recorded for centuries across cultures and are backed by modern science. The real question is, what do these altered states reveal about the nature of consciousness, time, and the universe itself? What does that say about us? Who are we, really? Are we ready to remember if it's already available at the table and market? So far, we have explored how consciousness can transcend the physical body, going beyond time and space. But what if there are specific techniques that would allow us not only to leave the body, but also to move through time itself?
Yes?
That's where regression comes into play. Progression, channeling, the ability to access memories from past lives, reincarnations, or to peek into possible future timelines. This isn't just a theoretical concept. This is a well-documented practice studied by psychologists, hypnotherapists, and spiritual researchers. Whether we look at it from a scientific or a metaphysical point of view, the evidence suggests one thing. Time is not linear. It is a vast interconnected web of experiences, and our consciousness has the ability to navigate it. Dr. Michael Newton and Dr. Brian Weiss are two of the most famous figures in the field of regression therapy. Through thousands of hypnosis sessions, they have documented case after case of individuals who, in a deep state of trance, recall detailed memories from past existences. Memories that are often historically accurate, providing insights that could not have been known in advance or fabricated.
Dr. Weiss.
A Yale-trained psychiatrist accidentally comes across regression. One of his patients, under hypnosis, spontaneously recalls events from a past life. Memories so vivid and specific that they can't be dismissed as imagination. At first, naturally, he approaches it with skepticism, but over time he finds that patients who explore their past lives experience deeper psychological healing. Phobias, chronic fears, emotional traumas that have no apparent source or cause suddenly disappear after a person experiences and understands their origin in another reality. The more important conclusion from science regarding regressions: the past is not lost, says Dr. Weiss. It exists as accessible information. From this point of view, past life regression is not just a journey into the unknown. It is a form of deep self-exploration, a way to understand the patterns that shape our lives and our world. If we repeatedly face the same struggles, the same dynamics in our relationships, or the same obstacles, regression allows us to trace these patterns back to their roots, to find the cause, why did it happen, and to see it from another perspective, to witness a person's life and death, to see how they passed away in the 14th century, for example, to see why she was unhappy and sad and what she left behind that she didn't work through, and to see the connection with this person in our world right now and why certain choices are related and how we can change them, what this person in the regression couldn't do or transform, through which we can help ourselves in this reincarnation, in this reality right now, to process it and change it. Regression gives us the opportunity to change the choice. Because in regression, you really experience life from the perspective of the person you were back then. However, each time it puts you in a different place, as a different element of the whole. And the most interesting thing is that it is always directly connected to your current hesitations, doubts, or desires. Regression is an opportunity for change. If regression allows us to reconsider the past, progression allows us to scan the future. Dr. Bruce Goldberg, a pioneer in the study of future life development, describes it as a way to tune into parallel realities. According to his research, our consciousness is not bound to a single timeline. Instead, it constantly interacts with multiple trajectories and paths and changes based on our thoughts, actions, and beliefs. This perfectly coincides with the principles of quantum physics, where particles exist in a state of probability until they are observed. Without choice, anything can happen. In almost the same way, our future exists in multiple states, solidifying only when we make decisions that lead us to a specific outcome. For example, we firmly decide to be with one person or to live in a particular city. Then everything seems to contract and the past and future align themselves. Especially the past, and we start to remember reasons why we made this choice and why we chose to live in this city. We start to recall how we did things back then, which almost justifies what we've done today. And it makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because it's like a film reel, except there are infinitely many film reels and we jump from one to another, and when we change our choice, the past here becomes different, and then it starts to match the future in the same way as what we've chosen at the moment and moved into, and we start to have different memories because we've made a different choice. But how does information reach these potential futures? Why are we doing this show? Meditation is one of the easiest ways. It's exactly in this expanded state that we can see beyond the present moment. We can experience glimpses of future possibilities. Dr. Goldberg explains, meditation reveals a field where time unfolds as a web of possibilities. Some people remember a personal future, meeting a future partner, discovering a life purpose, while others have grand visions of humanity's trajectory. However, what is important to understand is that these visions are not set in stone. They represent probabilities, potentials. They're not completely sure. Regression and progression are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin, just like the past and the future. Both reveal that time as we perceive it is an illusion. Understanding our past frees us from unconscious patterns. By exploring our future, we learn to make choices that align with our greatest potential. In the present moment, right now, we have the power to rewrite our story, both what is behind us and what lies ahead. Because everything is here. Everything is now. One of the most fascinating scientific demonstrations of how consciousness interacts with time at all is the placebo effect. Yes, you've all heard of it, you all know it. Traditionally considered an oddity of medical science, it is now recognized as a profound testament to the power of belief. When a person takes a sugar pill and believes it's a powerful medicine, their brain releases chemicals that cause real physiological changes, sometimes even more effectively than the actual medicine. But what goes on beneath the surface? The placebo effect isn't just about the body healing itself. This is proof that expecting a future event can influence present reality. The mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. It works within a framework, in which time is fluid, that is changeable. The Harvard researcher Dr. Ted Kapchuk has studied this phenomenon extensively, demonstrating that even when patients are explicitly told they are taking a placebo, they still experience healing. This proves that the very act of anticipating a future outcome resets the present body and mind. That's why you should be very careful about what and whom you choose to believe. Even the very thought of whether to start believing in something already triggers a number of specific processes. In the 1970s, the Stanford Research Institute conducted a series of government-funded experiments on extrasensory perception. Extrasensory perception, led by physicists Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff. Their studies showed that people could accurately perceive and describe distant locations and hidden objects without any prior knowledge whatsoever, an ability also known as remote viewing. The implications extend beyond space, as some participants described future events before they occurred. A declassified report from the United States government's Stargate project documents cases where remote viewers described military targets and intelligence details with astonishing accuracy. One subject, Joe McMonigal, reported on a top-secret Russian military base without ever leaving the United States, providing details that were later confirmed by satellite images. Very often, all the special services of the military, for example, in the States and in Russia, have such specialists, and they use remote viewing to observe what is happening in some of the bases. It gets very interesting because the other group has learned that there are people who spy in this way remotely, and so they create blocks or set up alerts for themselves somehow intuitively with a lot of training, so they can sense when someone is trying to enter someone else's territory. If you're interested in this type of experience, I recommend you read the book Dream Hackers. It's shown very well there. So, here are more materials for you. If the mind is capable of accessing information beyond time, can we train ourselves to do it consciously? By shifting your focus from linear time to the field of possibilities, you can explore both past and future events. And to complete the example in today's training, let's try together with something familiar. Or maybe not so much. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Deeply. Calmly. If possible, with your stomach. We inhale. We hold. We exhale. We inhale. We hold. We exhale. Once again. We inhale. We hold. We exhale. Imagine a desert. You turn to your left. Sand and dunes. You turn right, just as much sand and dunes. The sun is blazing. It's warm. But you are in a comfortable place and position. Move forward. Look around. Look at the sky. What is in front of you? Look at your feet. What are you walking with? Move forward. And in front of you. A boat will appear. The ocean starts where the desert ends. Get into this wooden boat. Is there anyone next to you? Allow yourself to see or to feel. Move forward with the boat. Row or start the engine. In front of you, a portal will appear like a huge glowing ring, waiting for you to pass through it. Go through this portal. You are now in the dark space. Dark space around you. Make a wish to see your own sphere, which is around you.
This sphere shines,
Sparkles. And it's like a huge sun that can surround you. And it's always with you to guide you, to help you.
Do you see?
Turn this sphere into a small one. Interstellar spaceship. With switches, with buttons, with screens. Just as you feel it. You can enter a destination on the screen. Where do you want to go? Quite calmly. Just write Dreven, Rim. The time of the gladiators. The empire of Mark Aureli. When you're ready, press the button. On the keyboard. And enjoy what comes next. You are already in Rome. What does ancient Rome look like? Go right up to the administration. To Mark Aureli. See where he is. Find him. Imagine that there is video surveillance and a camera, and you are that camera. And just watch. What do you see? What are the ancient Romans wearing? Are there any people? What is the weather like? Now go to a closer shot and just walk around calmly. The large halls of the emperor. Look at his library. Look at his servants. And those who help organize this whole empire. Look at his spawn. Is there anything interesting? Now go back to your glowing ship and your sphere. It is waiting for you. Step into it again. Close the door lid. And set the destination. Atlantida. 12,800 years before Christ. Welcome home. What does Atlantis look like? Go to any random street. Stop and leave the ship. Return to this time. What did ancient Atlanteans look like? Are there any normal people? What are they wearing? Do they have a palace? What does their government look like? Take a walk calmly. They know you're walking around and let you. They greet you. They often have guests from different corners of the universe. Ask. If you're interested, be curious. Even if someone looks a little strange, what does Atlantis look like? When you're ready, return to your sphere and set a destination. Friends? The kingdom of Maria Antonietta. The rule of Maria Antonietta. What does it look like from France in those times? Take a walk with the people. See where Maria Antonietta is. When you're ready, enter your sphere again and wish to go to the time of Charlie Chaplin. Wish to meet him, to see him. See his dressing room or his film sets. How he puts on makeup and gets ready for his next deceptive game.
What does Charlie Chaplin look like?
When you're ready, enter the sphere and make a wish to see Khan Kubrat. Watch what happens. How is what we now call Bulgaria discovered? What do you see? Is it good? Is it bad? Move forward and see Khan Kram. Move forward and see Boyan Maga. Bayan. Return to your sphere now and make a strong wish to go and see Jesus. Move to the time of ancient Judea. Suddenly you can speak Aramaic. What did he look like? Joshua! Which Joshua version are you seeing now? What's around him? Take a walk. Observe. Wish to see the house of Jesus, his mother, the other members of his family, the relatives and close ones. What does their home look like? Close your eyes, enter the sphere, and make a wish to be transported to the times of Cleopatra. See the queen in all her power and majesty. Who is Cleopatra? And what does she look like? Describe it. Capture this memory. And who is standing next to her? When you're ready, enter the sphere and wish to go in 2143 on planet Earth. What does it look like? Do you like it? Would you add anything? Where are you located? Is the place familiar to you? When you are ready, you can enter your sphere again, into your ship, and set a destination. 2025. Year Planet Earth. Stoyan Valkov. Choco. Show about meditation and time. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. How real is time? Anyone who wants can share in the comments below what they saw, what they understood, or in a long email, as you prefer. But that's only a small part of what our consciousness can do, the full potential that passes through us. The interesting thing is that each one of you saw something different, even if there are reference points. So comment boldly and share with others, so that we can be more and more surprised together. Allow yourself to be yourself and to surprise yourself every moment by yourselves. Respect and thank you. See you in the next episode.